Welcome into another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. As always, I am joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. We're here to break down UFC St. Louis as we are now in a stretch where, Pete, we're not Apex fighting at this point. We're on the road.
It's about damn time. It's kind of like we went back in time. And, it's nice for them to start going to other places than Vegas and the Apex. I mean, that's how fights should be, right? Like, give some of these fighters in different locations an opportunity in front of, to fight in front of their hometown, kind of expand your fan base, get other, types of casuals to start to see your sport, see it live for the first time and start to actually be, a promotion on the road instead of just kind of in a bubble.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's we got two local fighters on this card. Of course, you've got Joaquin Buckley, who has been campaigning for several weeks to get on this fight card. That's an interesting matchup because, you got his opponent going down to 170. And the craziest part about that is the fact that he's 6'5" versus a 5'10" Joaquin Buckley, and they have the same exact reach. That's going to be interesting to see. Ruziboev, let's see if he makes 170. He hasn't fought at 170 since 2021. He does feel like this is natural weight class, but if he makes 170, he could be just massive at that division. I mean, just absolutely massive for that division. Of course, also you got Sean Woodson fighting in front of his hometown crowd there in St. Louis. One of the things we'll talk about more about this a little bit later on, but going through the stats on Sean Woodson, I was kind of surprised on some of the stats when I was looking back at some of his most recent fights there in the UFC. But I guess, Pete, we should just get this out of the way. You can start gloating a little bit. You finally took down a contest last week in the Fight HQ contest.
Yeah, you're damn right, Jason. I already made Jason say like 3 times to me before the show. So, yeah, baby. I tell you, I think I'm the hot streak starting now, and it was nice. And I did not take Pantoja just because I felt like, Usyk was going to be popular. It was just kind of the combination of just being as different as possible. I really liked getting to the women's underdog a lot. And I didn't want to leave too much salary on the table, and I definitely wanted to get, some exposure to the main event. And I was like, even in a loss, at least I knew Pantoja was going to go for takedowns. That was really just my mindset. I was just like, I just need points. And he could still lose a decision and get outpointed, but maybe he gets 60 points, and I just can count on 60 points in a loss just from getting takedowns. But it was a very close fight. I still did score for Pantoja, but I thought Usyk did great, just made some boneheaded fight IQ mistakes, initiating grappling when he didn't need to, and I think that just led to getting out scrambled. And the kid's game, the kid's good, and we talked about it. I liked him from a value standpoint and thought that, despite being new inside the UFC, that he was definitely ready for the challenge, and he'll be a name within the rankings and within the top 5 for a very long time, and could possibly be a champion going forward.
And outside of Anthony Smith, it was pretty, and Jose Aldo, it was Chalk City last week out there. And, and I guess we can kind of tie this a little bit into game theory is, and we've talked about this, is finding these fighters who were 7,400 and below and who can go out there and get you 50 points. And we had multiple fighters go out there. Yeah, and Ressa, I thought she won the fight. I thought that was some hometown cooking on that judge's scorecard. I had the other side of that fight, and I was, as the fight ends, I go, well, just lost money there. No way that's coming in. And of course, she gets that very questionable decision win there. You also, Ursay got 58 points. Elvis Brenner, he got, I want to say 55 points. So it was one of those weeks where you could have had a losing fighter get in there. Of course, so you had Pantoja 143 points. If you didn't have Pantoja in your lineup, you weren't going to cash. Brito getting 101 points. Jakar Close 73 points. The Jakar Close fight, because I was on Joaquin Silva on that one, and I'm just like, and as I watched that fight, I was thinking of what you said on the show last week, where you say, hey, I just feel like there's going to be times where Silva's going to be throwing and he's just going to be hitting air. I'm watching this fight going, dude, just go for it. Just go for it. Start flinging. Like, I can only imagine what his corner was saying, like in between during the round, like, dude, just start throwing some combinations out. I mean, it just, oh God, that was frustrating to watch as a Joaquin Silva backer.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very close fight. It definitely was. And that guillotine that that Silva put on Jakar Close was super tight, and he tried to kind of limp his way out of it, and then realized he wasn't going anywhere, so then he just reverse slammed Joaquin on his face. It was a really close fight. I didn't feel the best when it went to the scorecards because I was like, maybe they did give it to Silva round 2 and 3. I think if I remember correctly, but I just didn't like it from close because he looked so damn good and composed and measured early. And then it seemed like, wow, the guy that I actually thought was going to gas out as the fight went on started to look better. So it just goes to show you that I love breaking down fights with you. Like, I really do enjoy this. And the one thing that I've put more stock in is giving fighters a shot that are coming from good camps. Like Silva training an American Top Team, they prepare him amazing. You know what I mean? Like any of these guys that are coming from strong camps, sure, back them. It's not like they're just out of some wild card gym. Like American Top Team. Anytime you got somebody a part of that gym, it's like you might as well sprinkle a little bit more exposure to that fighter.
Yeah, it is, and we'll get into game theory here in a moment. Of course, we do have our DraftKings contest that's already live. You can check out that link here on YouTube. It is in the notes of this episode. Also, if you listen to us on the podcast channels, it's there as well. So get into that Fight HQ contest coming up for this week. And Pete, as we get into game theory and talk about this, and yesterday when I was putting together my spreadsheet and I'm putting down the DraftKings salaries, of course, as we do this show, FanDuel salaries are not out. But the first thing that really stuck out to me was like, man, we got some value. I mean, I'm not saying that these fighters are going to say go out there and win. I mean, there are some underdogs I like, but there are some of these underdogs 7,400 and below that I can make a legitimate case for.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this week, there's definitely some appealing underdogs because of volatility. And, like on a chalky card as like last week was, I felt pretty confident in some of the fighters to win and be smart and be safe. There are some volatile matchups, right? Like anytime Menifield's in a fight, it turns into pretty some volatility. Same with Jared Gooden. Heavyweight, low-level heavyweight MMA, Cortes-Acosta. Terrance McKinney is the epitome of volatility. You have Billy Goff, who pushes a tremendous pace. Charles Johnson, who is super volatile, especially if people want to shoot takedowns on him. Chase Hooper has that jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, but negative striking. So it's like, and then of course you have a heavyweight underdog in the main event in Nascimento that he has a path. We'll talk about it and we'll break it down. But there's a lot of these fights where I was scratching my head, and I like a lot of the underdogs from a high scoring standpoint, but I may avoid some of these tricky, volatile matchups just in case they look good early and then kind of get eliminated as the fight goes on, or just don't do enough and don't pull out the victory. So I'm going to be pretty safe with like, my Fight HQ contest, of course, my cash games if I play. But the big GPPs take risks, right? That's the whole point. Like, be okay with leaving salary and be okay with rostering a Terrance McKinney or a Billy Goff. They give you tremendous ceiling, but recognize what could happen.
Yeah, you talk about boom bust players. That is Terrance McKinney. Like, as I look at my sheet, I've got 3 fighters in my GPP punt category. Terrance McKinney, Billy Goff, and the other one I'll throw in there is Alonzo Menifield. One of the things that was kind of, when I was reading up on some stuff on Alonzo Menifield, I forgot how old he is. The fact of being 35 years old at 205 pounds. When I looked at Takedown City, right now I've got 6 fighters in my Takedown City category: Nascimento, Hooper, Hadley, Gisette, Cortes-Acosta, and Veronica Hardy. We're going to talk about Veronica Hardy because I think she's given some pretty good indications of maybe what that game plan is against JJ Aldrich, which I think really probably should not be a surprise here. And one of the things I think for the most part, we always prioritize the main event because of it being 5 rounds. I just don't know if this is that week where I prioritize it, because I could very easily see, Nascimento going in with that game plan. We'll obviously break down in a second, is, taking down Derrick Lewis, maybe this thing gets to the 4th round and then Derrick Lewis knocks him out in round 4, and Derrick Lewis doesn't have the greatest of scores. So, like, this was one of those weeks where I just don't know if I want to prioritize the main event.
I don't mind getting to the main event, and the reason why I don't mind getting to it is just because of the salary. It's not like Derrick Lewis is a 9,000 option. Like 8,400, if he gets, like, say, a third or beyond finish, probably not going to be optimal. But I do think that, like, he's clearly not going to be shooting takedowns. It's going to be from his opponent. It's KO or bust. There's no way this goes the distance. I said that the last time when Jailton Almeida fought Derrick Lewis, and somehow it went the distance. So, but I don't think this goes the distance. Yeah. It's sub or bust for Nascimento, or KO or bust for Derrick Lewis, and I do think it ends within 2 rounds. I just think the price point's very favorable, and it's not like I love so many fighters underneath Derrick Lewis or above necessarily. Like, I'd feel much better about getting to Derrick Lewis's power at 84 versus rostering Borshchev, who I do think is like a very good kickboxer, very good fighter, should beat the brakes off of Chase Hooper as it's standing. But the guy doesn't know how to defend takedowns all that well. He does not know what a whizzer is, so he doesn't block people from taking his backs. Takedown attempts turn into back takes, and that's such a terrible, terrible thing when you're going up against a jiu-jitsu ace and Chase Hooper. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'd rather just get to Derrick Lewis. Like, that power is crazy.
Dude, like, how can you not have better takedown defense when you're at Team Alpha Male as a head striking coach? Like, how do you not get better? Like, that to me is the baffling thing. You're in a room full of people who just want to wrestle.
My man's teaching too many classes is what he's doing. He's teaching too many kickboxing classes. Let him just freaking spar and train, my man. So, but yeah, I think, like, if there's a camp out there to help him with his takedown defense, like you would imagine, it would be Team Alpha Male. I mean, I remember when I was trying to get my ground game up to par, and I was going back and forth with emails with Team Alpha Male, and I was like, yeah, that's at a point where I was within a weight class that made sense to go train at Team Alpha Male. Now it doesn't, but you know, it made a lot of sense because, like, that's what everybody's going. You're going to be paired off with a wrestler with an overhand every single round while you're there. But Chase Hooper's a little bit different. He's just like a gangly jiu-jitsu guy who has shitty takedowns but amazing jiu-jitsu. So Borshchev better just sprawl and brawl, I swear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's going to be an easy fight to break down here, of course. I appreciate everyone tuning in for episode of Fight HQ. Of course, if you got any questions, leave those in chats, or you can leave it in our Discord channel. Of course, the Discord channel, totally free to join. Great conversations that we have over there. Let's get right into it. We got the main event. Derrick Lewis taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. Nascimento, a plus 130 betting underdog, minus 155 for Derrick Lewis. Lewis on DraftKings is 8,400, and Nascimento, he is 7,800, Pete.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's KO or bust for Derrick Lewis, submission or bust for Nascimento. I mean, Nascimento could TKO Derrick Lewis. We've seen stranger things happen, but I don't hold Nascimento's striking to the same regard as like a Tai Tuivasa or anybody else. Like, it's like definitely not a Sergey Pavlovich. I don't think that Nascimento's ground game is as good as Sergey Spivak. And it's not like Nascimento's picked up a ton of finishes in his UFC tenure, right? Like, he subbed Dontel Mays in his debut back in 2020, got knocked out against Chris Daukaus when he was on fire, beat Alain Baudot, which does not really matter all that much, and then had multiple split decisions, wins over Bozer, Latifi, and Mays. And, like, you know, when he gets takedowns, he looks fine, but he doesn't have, like, the best control. I don't know, man. I think, like, trying to take down Derrick Lewis is tough because of the physicality. It's definitely doable, but this guy just gets up when he wants. I think the best submissions for, you know, beating Derrick Lewis is an arm triangle choke. I definitely think, like, we saw that. I believe it was against Sergey Spivak. Putting him on his back when you get him there, then you have to really capitalize on it. Going for a rear naked choke is doable. It's been done. Daniel Cormier did it to Derrick Lewis in the past. But, like, I also think, you know, that's kind of giving Derrick Lewis an up where he can work on his stand-up and get back to his feet because he does have the touch of death. To see him favored here at 8,400 after getting completely worked over 25 minutes against Jailton Almeida is a little crazy. I mean, his four previous salaries, 8,000 against Pavlovich, 7,400 against Spivak, 7,700 against Rogerio de Lima, and 6,600 against Almeida. I think it's a winnable fight. I think it's a get right spot for Derrick Lewis, and it's a lot for Rodrigo Nascimento, who hasn't. I don't even think he's been on a main card. Never mind a co-main or a main event. So I think it's a massive step up in competition. I think the moment could possibly get to Nascimento just because it is the Black Beast in Derrick Lewis standing opposite of you, and no matter what you say. When he touches people, they fold, they crumble, they start to shoot desperately, and they seem to want a way out the second they get hit. So could Nascimento win? Absolutely. If you're betting him, I would bet him via sub. I don't think that it goes 25 minutes. I think 25 minutes is a very long time to stay conscious around Derrick Lewis. I'm taking Derrick Lewis at 8,400. I think that he knocks out Nascimento. I understand that there's youth and ground game surrounding Nascimento. And if you want to get to him at 7,800, no problem. But I'm not going to be a big Nascimento guy this week. I'm going to back Derrick Lewis because of the experience. And I think he knocks out Nascimento pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there as well in liking Derrick Lewis. I think like I say, I think it's not going to be a fight that I'm going to prioritize for DFS just because of I fully expect that the only way I think Derrick Lewis ends up being optimal is it's a first or second round knockout. If you tell me this thing gets a third, fourth, fifth round, I just don't know if he's optimal based on what we're going to see on the rest of this fight card. By the way, Bowerman, man, really appreciate the super chat there. We appreciate any type of support we get, whether it comes in super chats or if you want to take advantage of the offers that Stochastic has for our listeners as well. We appreciate any kind of support that we get here for the Fight HQ podcast. But, you look at Nascimento, you mentioned about that sub plus 350. I think on the betting side to me, this is a live betting opportunity where I don't want to bet Derrick Lewis prior to the fight. I want to bet him after the first round, after the second round, that type of thing. I think that's where you're going to get your money on Derrick Lewis. I mean, the Derrick Lewis TKO KO prop is minus 135. We don't have a ton of props out there right now because we're early on the week. But to me, I think Derrick Lewis, from a betting perspective, I want to live bet him because I think he's going to get down early in this fight, and then I think he eventually knocks out Nascimento, third, fourth round.
Yeah, fair points. I don't think it gets that long. I think it's going to be first or second. I just don't think Nascimento's all that good. And I mean, he is from American Top Team. So I was just back in American Top Team and always say that. So trust in what I'm saying by, increasing your exposure to American Top Team underdogs or fighters in general. Maybe bump up your Rodrigo Nascimento exposure. But for me, I do think that Derrick Lewis knocks him out.
Let's move over to our co-main event. Of course, we got Buckley taking on Ruziboev. Buckley had been campaigning to get on this card to fight back in his hometown there of St. Louis. He's a minus 170 betting favorite. Ruziboev is plus 140. Buckley 8,700 on DK. Ruziboev 7,500. And really, I think, my thoughts on this fight could very well change as the week goes on, Pete. But to me, where I look at this matchup, it's more of the thought process of, okay, does Ruziboev make weight? And the fact of he's got a massive advantage in the height, but the reach is identical.
Yeah, virtually identical. I think this is probably a very dangerous matchup for Joaquin Buckley, right? This is a guy who's massive for the division in Ruziboev. I don't know how the hell he's going to make welterweight. He has in the past, but it's been quite some time. If he makes weight, there's no reason why I don't want to trust him. I think everything in the UFC he's shown to this point, he's so damn dangerous. His regional tape, he gets taken down, and immediately he's hunted for Caceres. He has so many Caceres submission victories, and he has a very talented ground game. Back in the day, Joaquin Buckley used to wrestle a lot, and we have seen Ruziboev lose minutes by being on his back, and that's the best way to kind of negate some danger. Joaquin Buckley shouldn't box all that much in this matchup. I think that he should box into takedowns because the more time that he spends boxing on the feet, yes, he could knock out Ruziboev, and maybe he's going to have a career best performance because it's in his hometown, perhaps. But I just think the height is going to be a huge difference maker. It kind of eliminates the kicks from Joaquin Buckley, the head kicks at least, where he's able to kind of diversify his attack. And And I think if I'm a part of Buckley, it's great head movement, good, powerful shots into some takedowns to win minutes. Because we really haven't seen Ruziboev tested outside of round 1 at all. And he has a ton of first and second round finishes. How does he look in round 3? You know what I mean? Like, that's the best way to see how a guy is just to get him into later rounds, because he's definitely not going to be the same type of fighter. I do think, though, that Ruziboev training in Philly, Team Marquez, BJJ, with the likes of Sean Brady and that whole killer room in there is just, it's crazy. Joe Pfeiffer and the list goes on and on. That room's crazy. Andre Petrosky. I think like this kid's the real deal. And I'm very surprised that he is as much of an underdog as he is. I thought that this might have been the pick'em fight, but Buckley's name and kind of reputation in the UFC, I think, is getting him kind of like inflated numbers. Also, Joaquin Buckley did just beat Vicente Luque. So we got that right. Or I got that right, at least. And I just don't think it was the same version of Vicente Luque that people remember. They remember the name, but I don't think Vicente Luque of now is the same as he used to be, and that's pretty clear. So I think everything in this game is about timing, and I actually really do like Ruziboev to beat Joaquin Buckley here, and I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to knock Buckley out with similar shots we've seen him get caught with in the past. If he does kick, he may kick and leave himself exposed, get caught down the middle. Same kind of combination that Chris Curtis planted him with. But also Ruziboev just has very good diversity with his attacks. Good uppercuts, good knees, good everything, good straight right hand. So I will side with the underdog, Ruziboev, to pick up a victory and knock out Joaquin Buckley and spoil the hometown fight for Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Buckley, and we've talked about the evolution of him as a fighter, and this is a guy that, he's trained at various gyms throughout the country over the past couple of years. Of course, he started there at Finney's there in St. Louis, at the gym that's run by Jesse Finney, longtime fighter, also now a fight promoter there with Shamrock FC. I do wonder, maybe do we see him go back a little bit to his wrestling route in this one, lace up those wrestling shoes. But if you look at everything he posts on Instagram, I don't think he's been lacing up the wrestling shoes.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it at all. And that's more of a reason why I like Ruziboev. I mean, I think people were saying that he like assembled the Avengers team, everybody who's like 6'3" and above to come help him prepare for Ruziboev. And I like Buckley a lot. I just don't think the UFC is doing him any favors, giving him this matchup. Especially you just beat Vicente Luque. Now you're going to beat a guy with basically no name in the UFC. It's kind of a backward step for you to get on this hometown card.
Sam, appreciate the super chat there. We'll get to your usual questions here. I'm interested to see where me and Pete lie on that 6.5 number. We got 13 fights, so I mean, I'm guessing Sam's thinking we got a lot of decisions on this card. I will say this. I talk about sprinkles a bet. I don't mind putting a sprinkle on Ruziboev wins via decision at plus 750.
I mean, the number's nice. I think it's a numbers play more than anything, and Joaquin Buckley just kind of extending him. Maybe like it's tough. He's only been the distance like twice in his career, or 3 times, but it always happens. One time, or you know what I mean? Like if it's not this fight, it may be in the next couple. So it's a numbers play, so I don't hate it from a small bet perspective.
Let's move over. Next up, we got Alonzo Menifield taking on Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg, a minus 250 betting favorite, plus 205 for Menifield. Menifield, 6,900 on DK. And for Carlos Ulberg, he is 9,300, Pete.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, anytime Menifield fights, Atomic Alonzo Menifield, like, has crazy power, can end a fight at any instant. He also has some very powerful blast double leg takedowns as well. So if things are not going, how they should be, he can just change up the fight and put somebody on their back. He's picked up some good control time in the past. He had 5 minutes of control time against Jimmy Crute, 2 minutes and 45 against Jimmy Crute in the rematch, 2:03 against Dustin Jacoby, 4 minutes against Mojarov. Like if he gets Ulberg down to the ground, it may look similar to how the Mojarov fight was, where it's just like endless ground and pound and result to a TKO, just because of the ground game deficiencies of Ulberg. But I think this is going to be a kickboxing matchup, and I think the respect is going to be there. Alonzo realizes he can't make any mistakes on the feet. He just beat Dustin Jacoby, arguably. And if he overlooks Ulberg, yeah, I think he can get slept pretty easily here because Ulberg hits really hard. His shot selection's very, very he's very precise. And he's a very composed fighter. So, like, he'll make Alonzo move into something. He'll catch him with a check hook on the way in. I like Ulberg despite the crazy, like, first round capabilities that Alonzo Menifield has. As this fight goes on outside of round 1, I think it just favors Ulberg. I think that he can literally light up Menifield like a Christmas tree. We saw Jacoby pick him apart, but then get dropped. And then, like, I just think Menifield's very good, but there's a way to kind of dance around him and treat him like the bull and you're the matador. Just stick and move. And that's kind of what I expect Ulberg to do. Chop at the legs, stay on his bike, good straight shots. If he comes in, shell up really well, defend takedowns, hit him with some counter shots. I like Ulberg here from a 9,300 is a little expensive and 6,900 is a little cheap. I kind of expected like 87 and like 74 or something like that. But I'm not in love with the salary of Ulberg. I do think that he wins, but I actually do think that Menifield will be respectful and not get too crazy, and it'll result in a decision win for Ulberg or a late finish, which at 9,300, he's cashed and he's looked good, but like 97, 105, 106, 106, 70, and 59 in his DraftKings scores. It's solid, but like we need above 110 points, and I just don't expect it. So give me Ulberg to win, but it's not really my favorite DFS play.
It's one of those fights where Menifield, he's just a guy that I just feel like I've never really trusted him in terms of DFS. And I do wonder how much of that gameplay may be of, hey, let's get this thing up against the fence. Let's put Ulberg back against the fence and not make this a fight at range. I mean, it was, as I looked at the salary show this week, that 6,900 price tag, it stuck out to me, but I was like, I think there's better low-end options I would want to take a shot on in GPPs. Yeah. Like, for a cash game contest, I might be more willing to go with a Menifield than I would a McKinney, just because I know what I'm getting out there is McKinney. Like, he's either going to win 3.5 minutes or, he's not. We've seen it.
At least with McKinney, you can count on one round. You know what I mean? Like, at one round, then that one round, he may get 50 points in one round. With Menifield, he may just get completely, like, picked apart for 15 minutes. But, I mean, like, for me, like, I think Ulberg's a part of a great camp. Menifield's coach is a weirdo and, like, a very good striker. But, like, I don't know. It's just an odd choice for a coach. Yeah. Pat Barry's had his struggles when it comes to blending the arts. But he can actually give Menifield some good kickboxing, pointers in a fight with a high-level kickboxer. Pat Barry was supposed to be like the next big thing for the division when it comes to, striking. Very good striker. But, yeah, I'm picking Ulberg at 9,300.
Appreciate Bowerman with the super chat. That's very much appreciated. And, of course, we always appreciate those super chats. So if you do got any questions, be sure to line those up in chat for us. Let's move over next. So we got Diego Ferreira taking on Rebecki. Rebecki is a minus 340 betting favorite, plus 260 for Diego. Diego 6,800 on DK, 9,400 for Rebecki.
Hey, thank you guys so much. I just pulled it up on my phone. Thank you guys. I know Jason's already said thank you, but Bowerman family, Sam, Bowerman family again, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. I mean, like, this is fun for Jason and I to do this, but obviously, like, that really helps the channel. It just helps us out a lot. When it comes to this fight between Rebecki and Ferreira, I think Father Time's undefeated, and the timing couldn't be better for Rebecki. This is a perfect test, right? This is kind of similar, and it's going to really pain me to say, but it's kind of similar to last week where we had like the up-and-comer, the guy who's like on a roll, get tested against a veteran. And that was Petrino against Anthony Smith. And Anthony Smith screwed everything up for me because, like, I needed Ernesto to win and Anthony Smith to just go away. And that didn't happen. But maybe there's a world where Diego Ferreira could actually pick up a victory here. I don't see it, but he does have excellent jiu-jitsu skills. He could catch you if you get lazy on the mat. We could see Rebecki take him down and then get lazy and get put in an armbar or a triangle. Absolutely plausible and possible. We saw Petrino as like one of the biggest favorites, if not the biggest favorite on last week's card, put his neck into a guillotine, realize he's in a guillotine, and proceed to attempt to slam out of it. And it was just like, you are so green. And that was just such a mistake. I don't think that Rebecki's going to do anything like that, though. I think Rebecki's very, very good. And I think he hits really hard. He's like a muscle hamster. He's so strong. He's talented in all areas. And this is the type of fighter that gives Diego Ferreira fits. Guys that are the better wrestlers, guys that will maintain top position and will sprawl and brawl and are better strikers than Diego. Like, I know Diego knocked out Michael Johnson most recently, picked up 92 points. I don't see that happening here against Rebecki. I think that Rebecki is, clearly one of the best plays on the slate at 9,400. Father time's undefeated. And I think the timing couldn't be better for Rebecki here. So whether he wants to wrestle, he wants to knock him down, let him back up multiple times, I think we're going to see a very dominant performance. It's just, do you have enough salary to get to 9,400 Rebecki? I think that you need to in most of your lineups, not most of your lineups, in some of your lineups. And I think this is going to look like a mismatch. So Rebecki should look pretty damn dominant out there. I think he's my second favorite fighter on the card.
I would say in terms of the 9,000 fighters, he's number 2 for me.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear who's number 1. Don't say it now.
I think my guess is I think we probably are both along the same lines, but we'll see when we get to that fighter. But, I just think I never want to be in the business of backing a 39-year-old fighter at this division. Just because, we all know this, Father Time is undefeated, and it just feels like this is that kind of classic UFC matchmaking. Next up, we got Alex Caceres taking on Sean Woodson. Of course, Woodson, one of the local fighters on this fight card. He's a minus 190 betting favorite, plus 160 for Caceres. Caceres, 7,100 DK. And for Sean Woodson, he is 9,100. And one of the things I mentioned earlier in the show about Sean Woodson, I think when you think of Sean Woodson, Pete, I think we think volume puncher. But when you go you go over to UFCstats.com and, we haven't seen this guy get 100-plus strikes in a while now.
Yeah, I don't understand. How. I mean, the guy can hit you from across the cage with his straight punches. I mean, he's like Dalsum from what's it? Tekken? No, not Tekken. Street Fighter? Gosh, I'm showing my age right now. I think it's Street Fighter. Dalsum. Dalsum's one of my favorite fighters. I'm pretty sure it's Street Fighter. And you could his arms extend so long, and you hit your opponents across the cage with whatever you want. I mean, Sean Woodson in reality should be throwing and landing upwards of 100 significant strikes in all of his contests. I mean, against Kyle Bochniak, he threw 100. He landed 111. Against Julian Erosi, he landed 106. He did lose that because he got subbed. But there's moments and there's potential in there for him to go and just eclipse crazy numbers. Perhaps he does it because he's a hometown fighter. And, perhaps he goes out there and shines. And in his backyard, maybe he goes out there and he can get offensive takedowns too if he wants. I mean, he's done it in the past, and some of his wins have aged well. But I do think Caceres will be much more apt to attempt takedowns to try to get rid of the rangy Sean Woodson and put him down there than Sean Woodson to put Caceres down, because Caceres does have some really slick jiu-jitsu. I think Sean Woodson at 9,100's he's kind of like a leverage spot. It's kind of like Lucindo last week. Leverage spot. She looked dominant, but it didn't translate for DFS. You know what I mean? She looked really good against Carolina, but it did not translate for DFS. I think it could be the same situation here where Sean Woodson clearly wins. He can knock out Caceres, sure. But I don't think Sean Woodson's really got all that much pop. He's volume. He's pitter-patter, tappy-tap type of guy, which should result in higher numbers. But in the 9,000 range, we need absolute insane volume or finishers. And I'll much rather, land with finishers than volume people. So Sean Woodson, 9,100, I think he wins a decision over Caceres. Caceres, will kick a lot and kick more often than Woodson. But I think Woodson's volume's going to get to Caceres, and it'll be some cage control. But Woodson wins a clear decision at 9,100.
Yeah, one of the things about Caceres is very quietly 7-2 in his last 9 matchups. But when you look at a lot of these wins outside of the Sergio Pettis win, they really the wins have not aged well. When you look at it, it's always been kind of, he's beat the guys you potentially expect him to beat, but when he takes that step up in competition, it is something that we don't see here. And I got to imagine he's going to try to be shooting and get this thing to the ground. But it was kind of surprising me that some of the volume we've seen for Sean Woodson just haven't been there in the past couple of matchups. Next up, we got Cortes-Acosta taking on Despaigne. Despaigne is a minus 185 betting fair, plus 155 for Cortes-Acosta. Cost 7,200 DK, 9,000 for Despaigne. Okay, here's my thing about Despaigne. I have all the same questions I had about him going into his UFC debut. What did we learn in 18 seconds?
Nothing. Don't care. Best play on the slate. That's all it is. No, I mean, you're right. There are obvious concerns, right? So, say you got a crazy bankroll. I wouldn't put my bankroll on this guy because there are just so many unknowns about what happens if he gets extended. What happens if he gets put on his back? What happens? A lot of things, right? Like what happens if he gets a leg kicked? But the problem is I just think he's so much more athletic than his opponents. And I think that Waldo Cortes-Acosta is solid. But the thing about Cortes-Acosta is he can go 15 minutes. So you could back him. Go ahead and back him. I'm not going to back him. From a big GPP standpoint, 150 max, get your salsa boy exposure. Sure. I don't think he's going to land takedowns. He's not a good wrestler. He likes to box. And you're putting a boxer up against a Taekwondo, Olympic medalist. And guess what? Despaigne's hands are really damn good too. And not to draw parallels, but there are some fighters that come into the UFC and have raw talent and are green. And they just have that it factor about them. Not saying that he does necessarily, but the power is just different. The resume is crazy. I think that he's the best play on the best 9,000 option on the slate. I just do. And that's what I'm going to say. And I know there's obvious concerns. I was surprised that he wasn't a bigger favorite. I think get it now while he's priced at 9,000 because the next fight, he may be the highest fighter on the slate. So, I mean, it's still 9,000 spend up. And I don't mind you pivoting away. But the most likely outcome in this fight is that one of these guys knock each other out or put up a good score or just are optimal in general. The fight, I think, is going to be good. And I've been watching his training. He hits so damn hard. He's good. They're training him in all aspects of mixed martial arts, which is great. I think he's going to knock out Waldo pretty bad. And we've seen Waldo get knocked out in the past in his boxing career. I think he's the best. He's the best play on he's the best 9,000 option on the slate because you don't have to spend so much on him. But I think there's a ton more confidence in safety in a guy like Rebecki because we've seen his resume and we've seen a lot more of him inside the UFC's octagon. But at 9,000, I can save 400 and get to Despaigne. I'm going to do that in some of my lineups. Despaigne by KO, first round KO.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the comments we have from Joshua, is talking about where Despaigne does train. I think when you talk about if you're a fighter based in Florida, where he's training at would not be at the top of the list of where you want to be. I'm just look. I could probably name 4 other gyms you'd probably rather be at in the state of Florida than where he's at. I mean, it's just look. I think overall the likelihood of this fight being optimal, I think, is extremely high.
I totally agree.
Just because of if Despaigne goes out there, he's likely knocking him out in the first round. And like I said, I still have the same questions about him I had coming into his UFC debut. What happens if he gets put on his butt? Can he get back up? What happens if this fight hits minute 6? What is that gas tank like? But yeah, you said right. Guy hits like a truck, and he very well may go out there and knock him out. It's just it's one of those things of I want to see more out of him before I put all this faith into him.
I bet you're not going to see more out of him. That's the problem. And that's why he's going to be so damn dangerous. And he's just going to keep melting people inside of a minute or inside of one round. And then, like, everybody's going to think he's ass in other areas. And he's probably not nearly as good because he's not, but he's working on it at least. But I just think stylistically, it's a good matchup. Like, if
Yeah.
he's going to fight anybody, he fought one of the worst fighters in the heavyweight division for his debut. And now he's following up with another guy who's not going to try to take him to the ground. If Waldo Cortes-Acosta does, I think that he will zap his own energy because that is not his usual energy system. He does not have good submission skills. He's not good on the ground at all. It's not like he's a wrestler or a grappler by trade. It's a favorable matchup. Like, at the worst, you're standing up. Okay, like Despaigne comfortable with that. So is Waldo Cortes-Acosta. But yeah, I'll take my chances. I don't think Cortes-Acosta is the guy to expose Despaigne. I think it's coming. I do think it's coming, but I don't think that Cortes is the guy.
There are fighters we see inside the UFC. We watch their fight in UFC, and you go, you know what? At some point, I'm going to fade that guy. At some point, you know, I don't mind getting to Cortes-Acosta in this situation, but like, by the way, he's not my favorite 9K option, by the way.
Oh, okay. So that is my favorite 9K option.
Yeah, there's someone that I think has a very high ceiling in terms of what they could score. We'll talk about that fighter here in a little bit. Next up, we got Hooper and Borshchev. Borshchev is the minus 140 betting favorite here, plus 120 for Hooper. Hooper 7,700 on DK, and for Borshchev, he is 8,500. And Chase Hooper, I mean, look, the guy continues to develop. I thought it was kind of interesting. He's already talked about as his body is developing. He's now a father. He eventually sees his home being at 170 pounds.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Chase Hooper is very good when it comes to grappling and fighting dirty. Like, as far as like making it a dog fight, seeing who's tough. He's very tough. I got to give him credit. He's very tough. In close, in a clinch, he will, throw volume. He'll attempt takedowns. His takedowns have improved slightly, but I still kind of view him like jiu-jitsu guy takedowns, like not the best wrestling at all. I really thought like him being friends with Ben Askren and kind of like having that little parody of being his son or his brother or whatever son, I think. I was like, oh, wow, this might be the guy to actually get Chase to have like a next level ground game. Like, his ground game's great. His jiu-jitsu's killer, but like getting the fight to the mat, there's going to be times in matchups where he's going to struggle. I just see it a lot in the jiu-jitsu room where those guys are just not the same as high school collegiate wrestlers that are trying and will take you down. The good thing is that Borshchev is god-awful takedown defense. It's improving as well, and they're both improving. Who has improved more and who can implement their game plan the best? Because on the feet, I think Chase Hooper might think that he can strike until he gets hit by Borshchev, and Borshchev digs to the body and throws excellent combinations. The shot selection is great as well. Comes from a great camp and Team Alpha Male. I just don't understand how his takedown defense is so poor, or his instincts. Not even that his takedown defense, it's his instincts. Like, he does not know how to stop somebody from taking his back. Like, you need to block that. Like, get your wizard, bro. Like I don't know, man. He like face plants and like kind of just, I don't know what he does sometimes, and he gets his back taken a lot. I could see why people want to back Chase Hooper here. I would put an asterisk next to this fight just because I do think that this is a GPP fight all day long. I think that it could be going one way and then sway in the complete opposite direction round to round in this bout. I might avoid this fight in some of my safer builds just because I can't really tell you who's going to win this bout. They both have deficiencies in certain areas that can be exposed by their opponent. I will, however, side with Borshchev ever so slightly. I like the salary of Borshchev? No, not necessarily. I think, though, that I'm just going to trust in the fact that perhaps he can hit hard enough. He can hurt Hooper on the feet enough early enough before Hooper starts landing those takedowns or putting him in some compromised positions. So give me Borshchev to win a decision here at 8,500. But like I said, If you're backing Chase Hooper, no problem at all. I could totally see it. I think one way or another, a lot of people are going to look stupid, backing this fight and like really planting their flag on one guy. I'm fine with just kind of embracing the volatility and, having balanced exposure to both of them and then some exposure away from it in case it gets extended and it's not optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's clear path to victory for both these sides. I mean, obviously, if you're Borshchev, it's about keeping the fight on the feet. If you're Chase Hooper, it's finding a way to get this thing to the ground. I mean, we talk about Borshchev. I mean, look, that is, even though he is that team alpha male, like, I mean, you had a great line earlier in the show. I'm sorry, that was a great line. He's teaching too many kickboxing classes. He's not getting into wrestling practice enough.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he's practicing like crazy, but shoot, bro, like. My coaching staff, we'd be screaming at him, and
I'm sure there'd be some choice words.
Oh yeah. And like Uriah Faber's skin must crawl when like he's seeing some of the instincts that are occurring in fights. Borshchev's a high level kickboxer, and it's really difficult for kickboxers and strikers to grasp the ground game. Whereas like, I don't know, like it's pretty easy for some grapplers just to grasp the concept of swinging hard punches. Yeah. But you'll see the gaps in skill in certain areas. I'm just talking like, dude, just like they need to practice the wizard. He's so worried about getting underhooks that his underhooks, he ends up flopping on his belly. But yeah, give me Borshchev in a volatile fight.
I'm going to go Hooper in this one. I think he gets that one to the ground. I don't know if he gets a stoppage in this one. I think that, to me, Hooper also, I think, is another live betting potential here where Borshchev gets up early on in the fight, is able to keep the fight on the feet, just land the better strikes. And then Hooper, as the fight goes on, eventually gets to the ground. I mean, one thing about Hooper, I mean, it's sloppy takedowns. But it's just stylistically, it's a matchup where, I mean, look, I think it's volatility on both sides. And, I think in terms of a GPP, probably want to go in a different route. Going with some other options I feel a little more comfortable with. Next up, we got Esteban and McKinney. McKinney plus 145 betting underdog, minus 175 for Esteban. He's 8,900 on DK, 7,300 for Terrance McKinney. I mean, look, can we just like go hit rewind on another show we talked about Terrance McKinney? Because I feel like we're probably going to say the same things we always say about Terrance McKinney.
100%. And you want to talk about volatile matchups for my safe builds. So I kind of always put safe builds out there, and then I put risky builds and then balanced builds. But like, I think this is a pretty volatile matchup similar to the Hooper and Borshchev. The issue is like McKinney is a front runner. He is a round one guy. Round two, he starts to fade significantly and his opponents take over. Or even in round one, sometimes his cardio just is so taxed that he's just a sitting duck for his opponents to land strikes on him, to put him in compromising positions. And I kind of just see like McKinney dominating early and then just blowing it. For him to get to round 3 will be a miracle. It would be an absolute miracle. And then never mind for him to get to 15 minutes completed under his belt. Like, I don't know what the hell it's going to have to take. But, like, it honestly may be an accomplishment for him to start round 3. And then as soon as round 3 starts, then the cardio collapse. And then it's like, okay, in a couple more fights, we'll get to 15 minutes. I don't know, man. I fully expected McKinney to be the favorite. And then McKinney as an underdog is what really makes it intriguing. And the reason why I thought McKinney was going to be a favorite is he has notable UFC victories. Knockout over Breeden, knockout over Marat, Gonzalez, Faraziam and Fervola. The Ziam is probably the best performance. And that's where he utilized his grappling, utilized his good wrestling and got on top and then ended up snatching up a submission in round 1. That's the best type of Terrance McKinney, is blending the arts. The issue is I think that he's a little gun shy about attempting takedowns and initiating grappling because he doesn't trust his cardio. You know what I mean? So he doesn't want to go that route and then have to continue to fight because it's exhausting grappling and then back to striking and blending everything. It's much easier to just throw strikes. Oh, McKinney, what are you doing to me? He's an underdog. I think that there's a clear path of take Ribovics down and sub him, or take him down and ground and pound him. We've seen Camwell occur. Camwell occur's a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner in the practice room and regionally. Hasn't really materialized in the UFC. But we saw him put Ribovics in some compromising positions. I think McKinney can do the same thing. In my safe builds, I'll tell you what my worry is that McKinney really does well in round 1, doesn't sub or finish Ribovics, really does well in round 2 for the majority of it, and either screws up and Ribovics comes back in round 2, or McKinney experiences round 3 for one of the first times, if not the first time in his career, and Ribovics finishes him in round 3 and makes the fight not optimal. So that's literally like a big brain type of, for a certain amount of my lineups, that's kind of what I'm anticipating. It's definitely not a safe fight to target. The value is going to be on McKinney, one of the best round 1 type of fighters out there. And I do think he has a clear grappling advantage. So I will pick McKinney to win the fight. Low level confidence though, because I think Ribovics has the power and the striking to knock out McKinney once he's exhausted. It's just he's going to have to deal with the wrestling early. But it could look very similar to the Nazim Sadikov, the Bonfim fight, any of McKinney's losses. The second he starts to deal with adversity, he crumbles. But yeah, I'm gonna side with McKinney as a value play for GPPs, not for cash.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's a punt play just because of everything you just mentioned, and I feel like it's rinse and repeat every time we talk about Terrance McKinney. I mean, we know, that first 3.5 minutes, you know what you're going to get out of McKinney, but to me, it comes after that. I was just on the Hard Rock app. I was just seeing what kind of props they had on that fight currently, and they didn't really have anything, but they did have the over under 1.5 rounds. The plus 170 over 1.5 rounds, that's intriguing.
It is, because I feel like we could see McKinney get like the back and body triangle and just be unable to finish. And then he's just hanging on for dear life for round 2. And like the numbers are enticing enough for me to back McKinney early and then back Ribovics round 2 and round 3. The likelihood of it reaching round 3, very low. But the number's probably really good on Ribovics round 3.
Yeah, I will tell you this, man. I have been having awful luck on over-unders in MMA recently.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, yeah. I've come to this realization when it comes to over-unders. I just need to pre-bet like 5-6 hours before the fight start. Not this, laying in a bunch of bets an hour before the fight's going to start.
Yeah. But I also go to alternate lines too. Like that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like the 1.5, it's so close and it's off by like 20 seconds sometimes. So if I'm doing multiple, I'll go to alternate lines and find the 2.5. And like that's a nice way for me to get different. I've hit some under, last week I hit an under half, which was nice, or somebody to win in under a half a round. I forget who it was, but it was nice. And the numbers are pretty good.
Yeah. I've been doing. I don't know if up in Connecticut, if because you're FanDuel in Connecticut, right? You have FanDuel and DraftKings Sportsbook.
Both, yeah, both. I play on DraftKings.
So here in Florida, it's a monopoly. It's only the Hard Rock app, and so I've been doing a lot. They've been allowing you to do same game parlays on multiple games. That's that gets dangerous.
That's hard as hell, guys.
Yes, especially these NBA playoffs. Yeah, man, it's
that's a lottery ticket right there. You know what I mean? It can hit, but that's like parlaying MMA props. Like,
I'm telling you, no. Here's what I do, because for people who are here in Florida have the Hard Rock app, you open it up and the media, you get the banner ads for what the promotions, the boost. I look at those boosts, I go, let's bet the other way, because no way those things are coming in.
Yep, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it was like there was one the other day. It was like Knicks win, Joker 30+ points, Anthony Edwards 30+ points. I go, that ain't coming in.
Yeah, no.
Hey, coming in.
So I mean, I took the Timberwolves earlier in the year to win the conference, and then also win the finals. And it's starting to look good. They look good against Denver right now. That defense is crazy, and Anthony Edwards looks phenomenal. And it's kind of looking like it'll be Celtics look pretty damn dominant, but it is against Cleveland.
I don't think anybody in the East is going to be able to take the Celtics out.
I don't think so.
Barring an injury. I watched
Even
the Knicks and Pacers. I'm interested to see if the Knicks can keep up with this pace for how long the series goes.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know,
it's exciting, man. I thought the Sixers. I had money on the Sixers and money on the Timberwolves, in different spots, and I just based it on, like dominant players and also just kind of like the eye test and kind of their path to it. I thought the Sixers were going to get past the Knicks, but it did not happen. They blew a ton of games.
Look, we're seeing the star of Anthony Edwards is being born.
My man's nasty.
I saw this great line from Draymond Green. He goes, Ant may not call himself the best basketball player in the world. He goes, his actions on the court says he believes it.
Oh yeah, he's so good. He's so good on the mic too. He's very humble. He's just he's nasty. He's absolutely nasty.
Yeah, and of course, and the crazy thing, I forget I heard talking about this. You look at the president of basketball operations for the T-Wolves. His name's escaping me. He came from Denver. He basically built the T-Wolves roster that he knew he was going to have to take out the Nuggets. So
yeah, I love it.
Kind of interesting there. I love this time of year with NBA basketball. I'm there every night watching it. Now we got the return of Tecia Pennington, of course, formerly known as Tecia Torres, taking on Tabatha Ricci. Ricci is a -140 betting fair. Pennington +120. She's 7,900 on DK, and for Ricci, she is 8,300. And you know that over 2.5 rounds is going to be juiced.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to come back into MMA when you've had a tremendous time away. But time away to get better at your skills is one thing. Time away for, pregnancy and giving birth to a kid and then having to shed the pregnancy weight and get back in shape. And I don't know, man. Inactivity against a very active fighter in Tabatha Ricci. I view it as a close fight. And if Tecia wasn't away and dealing with all these different X factors, perhaps I'd be leaning towards the tiny tornado, but I'm just not going to do it, Jason. I'm just not going to do it. And the reason why is I don't believe it's just going to be a kickboxing fight. If it is just a kickboxing fight, I think that Tabatha Ricci will look and have uglier striking than Tecia Pennington. But I think that Tabatha Ricci has the ability to mix things up. And the one thing is, like, I think Tecia's going to be prepared coming into this fight, but like, the timing of everything, it might take a little bit to kind of get back. Being under the lights, she's used to it, of course. She is the UFC veteran. She could win. She does have the champ, within her household and helping her prepare and everything. But I do think, like, if this becomes a mixed martial arts fight, that Tabatha Ricci will get her hand raised. So I actually think, like, you mentioned some takedown city artists. I think Tabatha Ricci is a very sneaky takedown artist here, because she did not find success with her takedowns against Lupi Godinez, who I view as a much better wrestler than Tecia Pennington. That name's screwing me completely up. And then same against Manon Fiorot. No, but I was in her debut. Had no success against that. But guess who else didn't have success against Manon in the takedown department? Erin Blanchfield. So 5 takedowns against Oliveira, 5 against Viana, 4 against Penne, 3 against Robertson. Do I think she takes Tecia down like repeatedly? No. But I think in a close round, can she land a takedown? Can she change levels and just make the judges go, ooh, close round plus takedown? I'm giving the round to her. That's what I'm expecting. And at 8,300, she's kind of got it all going for her, whereas Tecia has a lot to kind of overcome before she even gets into the cage. Now she's going to have her first weight cut in addition to cutting all that baby weight too. I'll root for Tecia Pennington because I like Tecia a lot. But I think that Tabatha Ricci here at 8,300 is a very good value play. And I'll be backing her at 8,300.
Yeah, I do like Tabatha Ricci in this spot. And Devin checking on the score channel. And Devin, I think we all have the same goal you have. He goes, my goal this week is to win $100,000. I think we all have that goal.
Captain Obvious. Thanks, man. My goal is the same too. My goal is to lose $5,000 this weekend. No, come on. That's the goal. That's why we're all here. We're all here to try to make money. It's just you guys be in your own contests. Nobody else go in the main GPP. Leave it up for me and Jason. And that's how we'll do this. Okay. But yeah, that's the goal every single week, man. You want to make money off of this, so we ain't got to go back to work.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this, and Devin just saying is all it takes to create a line that no one has. I mean, look, in terms of, and we've talked about this plenty of times, but if you're getting in those big GPP contests, and if you're not, putting in a ton of entries, let's just say you're putting in 10 or less entries, just to throw a number out there, you got to get crazy. I mean, you got to sit there like last week. Hey, if you had Pantoja, if your core was Pantoja and Anthony Smith, you were in a really good situation. And that to me is about, and I know we always get that question about, finding that core. I mean, this week, the core, I think I know who it is, but I also think that it's going to be about who are these low-end options that, we can trust. I think that's the hardest part for me.
Totally agree. And what's crazy, Jason, is I was watching the live standings of my lineups last week. Well, I put the same lineup in every contest, and that's all I played. I just played the one. I don't have any of my tools that I used to have for Fantasy Crunch or anything like that. So I just been going based off of, logic and hand building. It appeared that I only had like a hand select people with the same lineup as me in the big GPP. And if Ernesto won, say Anthony Smith just didn't exist in that fight, right?
Yeah.
And Ernesto won, your boy could have been looking at a really good damn lineup. I mean, Jose Aldo still did good, but it was like, ooh, shoot. And I didn't have anything really all that crazy. I think I left like $300 on the table or something like that. So you don't got to go insane. It's hard enough as it is to pick 6 fighters. But if you like those 6 fighters, just play it.
Yeah, the fact that she would have survived that choke in the opening round. I mean, I was just like, I was sitting poolside, had the fights on the phone, and I'm like sitting there, got the AirPods in. I'm just like, finish the choke. When she didn't finish choke in the first round, I was like, oh no, I've seen how this goes. I just seen how that goes. Like that was low level women's MMA. That's what that was.
100%, absolutely. And but yeah, that it goes to show you that, like, some weeks you need to have crazy lineups.
Mm-hmm.
Last week I didn't really have all that crazy of a lineup, and I definitely didn't have any more than $200 or $300 left over, and it was me and like 2 other people in the big GPP that had the same lineup.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and I think we've been kind of in this run of Chalk City. I feel the dogs are going to come barking. I don't know if it's this week, but there's going to be a week where the dogs are going to come barking.
I don't know though, right? Like, I mean, the main event had dogs win it for like what? The first how many fights?
I think it was like six UFC events of the year. I want to think.
I think we're just starting to see mismatches more and more. I mean, like, it's always been evident, but like the main events, the favorites were getting smacked for a while.
No, yeah, it's but obviously last week, I mean, if you would have hit Ernesto, I mean, she would have been what, 88 points, I want to say, instead of 58. She was like 56, 58, something like that. I mean, that additional 30 points, can come in handy.
Yeah, Anthony Smith, I hated that man last week. I just could not believe it. I'm like,
by the way, if you did not see him and DC's interview with him,
I did
when they started talking about Alex, tremendous. Because, I mean, Anthony's getting a lot of hate for what he has said, the past couple of weeks about Alex. He's not wrong. Like, he's sitting there goes, guys, he is super unbelievable in one facet of the game. He goes, but do you think I'm going in there and trying to have a kickboxing matchup with him? He goes, no, I'm trying to take his ass to the ground. And so him and DC had his comeback. And DC's like, I couldn't beat him. And Anthony goes, if we turn these cameras off, you would say the same damn thing?
Yeah, DC 100% in his prime would have said that.
Oh, God, yeah. DC,
okay, hold on. Here it is. Anthony Johnson. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Johnson. Same guy. DC.
I will say this. What I thought was very interesting, because there was a lot of speculation that they were going to make an Alex fight announcement last weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the video. He's doing a photo shoot. That toe is still messed up. He's just basically shadow boxing, and he takes a step and he literally almost falls.
Eey.
Yeah, that toe's in bad shape. Tells me he's not fighting for a while. But I was actually surprised they put that footage out there because I was like, ooh, because I was starting to think, I was like, I don't know if you've seen this. John Jones says he has a date for his fight. He goes, I'm going to let Dana
he better
know.
not fight John Jones because John Jones will go in there with the strategy to go tickle his feet and stomp on that toe. So, I mean, he better not. He better not.
This is pure speculation here. Pure speculation. I think we're getting a John Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight announcement.
I don't think so. I hope.
Oh well, I think they want to put on. I think they want to put on a big fight for Manchester. I don't know if I was John Jones, how excited I would be to fight in Manchester. Normally, fighting at 5 o'clock in the morning, local time. Tom Aspinall already come out and said he's not really thrilled about that either. My guess is your co-main event's going to be Leon Edwards versus, I'm guessing, Bilal. But the fact that I still haven't given Bilal a title shot.
That fight ain't happening, bro. They ain't doing that thing.
Yeah.
If they do it in, listen. Oh, well, I was going to say that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't see that.
You got to have Leon defend the title in Manchester. You have to.
You have to.
But it would not surprise me if it's not Bilal Muhammad. It would not shock me. Wouldn't if they were going to give Bilal a title shot? I think it would have happened already. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, we got Trey Waters taking on Billy Goff. Billy Goff is a plus 140 betting underdog, minus 170 for Trey Waters. Waters 800 DK. Goff 7,400 beat.
Yeah, I think this is pretty clear. If Waters keeps it on the outside, he can volume strike Billy Goff up. He's kind of got that Sean Woodson build about him, where he's massive for the division, very long and lanky. Billy Goff, a local guy around here, pushes a high pace, gets in your face, tries to make it dirty. Good wrestler, good overall fighter, very tough. He's a dog. He can overcome adversity and come back if you have any levels of quit in you, if you have any lapses or deficiencies a part of your game. He will keep making you work to try and get you out of there in all areas of mixed martial arts. The thing is, though, I think is that, like, Billy's pretty hittable on the feet, right? Like, he's pretty hittable on the feet. He's been hurt and dropped in countless fights. A lot of the fights he's losing, and then he comes back and comes from behind. And that's why he's such a tough fighter to put away, and he's a dog. He's a great underdog to circle. I think that he's in that Terrance McKinney type of underdog that can go out there and put on a tremendous performance. He could submit Trey Waters. He could TKO him on the ground. I mean, he has very good elbows standing in on the ground. I just think that Trey may just kind of pick him apart on the feet a little bit and be on his bike. Billy coming off of an injury, coming off of a car accident, coming back into the UFC, kind of get acclimated again. The kid always trains, and a local guy, I'm always going to root for the local guy. I would suggest you increase your exposure. I kind of view him. I view Billy, McKinney, and Hooper as like a very good underdog pool to get to. I'm obviously picking Ruziboev as like an actual underdog to win. I'm not picking Chase Hooper to win. I am picking McKinney to. The value is just too much for me to pass up. I think that Billy can get touched up on the feet a little bit and then possibly run out of time. And this would be a decision win for Trey Waters just because of the length and the volume. But yeah, I think that Billy needs to be one of the most exposed underdogs on the slate, and a lot of people are going to want to get to him. I am going to pick Trey Waters to win a decision, though.
I do like the pump play of Billy, just with him laying a bomb, getting a knockout. I mean, I would probably say, like, if you told me I had to roster either him or McKinney, I might still go McKinney.
Yeah, same.
Just because that first round upside with him, where I just think that if Billy gets a stoppage, I think it's more later on in the fight than it is opposed to being early on in the fight. But, look, there are some quality options there when we're talking about those low in there. Next up, we got Charles Johnson taking on Jake Hadley. Hadley at minus 175 betting favorite, plus 145 for Charles Johnson. Johnson 7,600 on DK. Hadley is 8,600. And Charles Johnson, another local fighter on this card.
Yeah, I mean, like, Charles Johnson going to want to go out there and put on a show. I mean, he did pretty well against Maxim. He landed 2 takedowns, Very competitive fight. Picked up the victory. Had 73 points. Typically, like, he loses his fights and loses rounds by getting taken down. But he gets back up and he makes you work and work and work. If Jake Hadley decides to wrestle in this fight, I think that his jiu-jitsu skills can actually either pick up a submission or pick up good positions over Charles Johnson. Johnson makes a lot of mistakes and leaves his back, gives his back to his opponents, which I think Jake Hadley can take it and put a body triangle on, and possibly work towards a rear naked choke. His submission skills are very, very good. Jake Hadley's takedown defense is quite poor, though, which is kind of funny because they both have poor takedown defense. Charles Johnson may actually initiate takedowns in this fight because he likes to blend the arts and solidify rounds. And if he's playing in the guard of Jake Hadley, I think that he could get omoplata, go-go plata, triangle choke, armbarred. I mean, the active guard that Jake Hadley has is exceptional. Striking, I think, the aggression and southpaw stance of Jake Hadley, I think it's going to give me the lean towards him in this fight. And I know that people want to get behind Charles Johnson. It is a flyweight bout, so like flyweight underdogs kind of in that same territory where it's just they're going to put out activity. I do think that Jake Hadley has like much higher skill in the grappling department than Charles Johnson. So like give me Jake Hadley to win here, even though a lot of people, and I can see the path for it, even though a lot of people might want to get to Charles Johnson. I just view him as very untrustworthy, right? Like, I know Terrance McKinney's very untrustworthy, but he has a path to victory. Charles Johnson just kind of like he's right there and always in a competitive fight, but not doing enough to put a stamp on rounds. So give me Jake Hadley because I do think that he's aggressive, he's mean, and he has better finishing instincts than Charles Johnson. So give me Hadley at 8,600.
Yeah, with Charles Johnson, I mean, to me, the always scary thing is he just gets put on his back. He does have that ability to get up, and that's where you talk about that fantasy score upside of Jake Hadley is someone that when you're talking about, if you're putting together, groups, if you're using, some type of optimizer, Hadley has to be in that takedown city because he can very easily take this one to the ground. Next up, we got Jared Gooden taking on Kevin Jousset. Jousset is a minus 245 betting favorite, plus 200 for Gooden. Gooden 7,000 on DK. Jousset is 9,200 and He's my 9,000 option this week, Pete.
Yeah, I like it. I really do like it. Jousset's very good. I mean, I think like Gooden, he's tough. And if you don't put him away, he's going to continue to fight and test you and try his best to win. And that sounds kind of funny because like everybody should be trying to win, but a lot of people don't deal with adversity well. I mean, he got the shit kicked out of him in round 1 against Wellington Turman, and then ended up coming back in round 2 and put it on him. And I thought Turman, training with Ferreira, he kind of like was throwing good leg kicks and good combinations. But he got taxed. He was so exhausted that when Gooden was still alive in round 2, Gooden put it on him, took him down, hurt him on the feet, hurt him on the ground, finished him, caught him with a submission in round 2, scored 99. Like, Knight trains live to always come back and come from behind. The issue is like, the fact that you have to come from behind means you're losing. You know what I mean? Like that's it's great, but a lot of times you're not always going to find that path to victory to come back and get a victory. And I do think that Kevin Jousset is just, on the feet, that he's way better than Gooden. Gooden keeps his chin up in the air. He could get knocked out. He could get picked apart for 15 minutes. Jousset on the regional scene also landed takedowns. I think that Gooden, will defend some takedowns pretty well. But yeah, I don't mind you liking Kevin Jousset here at 9,200. I think Jousset is very skilled. And 1, 2, 3, 4. He's my 4th favorite fighter on the card, so I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, I love the upside here, what he can bring from a DFS perspective of just utilizing everything in his arsenal to go out there. That's why he is my favorite option there at 9,000. Then our opening matchup of the night is the 8,200, 8,000 fight. We got JJ Aldrich take on Veronica Hardy. Hardy is a minus 135 betting favorite, plus 115 for Aldrich. Aldrich is the 8,000 fighter, Hardy the 8,200 fighter. And if you've been paying attention to Veronica Hardy on social media, you've seen the last 3 weeks, she's been in New York with Renzo Gracie.
Oh, baby. Yes. And You said it. She might be spoiling her game plan a little bit. But I'll tell you what, man. Like, you got JJ Aldrich, who I think was here at one point, and we had Veronica Hardy here. And now I actually think that JJ Aldrich has really plummeted as Veronica Hardy has passed her. I mean, like, I don't think that JJ's looked all that great ever since, like, the Blanchfield and beyond. I think she's kind of regressed in every aspect of the game. She looks slow. She's hittable. She is just lethargic. You know what I mean? Not aggressive at all. I mean, how the hell do you score 57 against Montana De La Rosa in a decision? Like, I don't know, man. I just don't see if she wins how she's going to do all that great. And I also just don't see how she's going to beat Veronica Hardy. Hardy's looked like incredible, absolutely incredible ever since she returned. I mean, she beat the hell out of Juliana Miller. Jamie Lynn Horth, she also looked really, really good. She may put up a similar score as she did against Jamie Lynn Horth, which is not good either at 59. But, like, I just think that Veronica Hardy in all aspects, I think she's improving. I really do. I think that at 8,200, as far as like a safe winner, it's tough to label women's MMA as safe winners, but I have a lot of confidence in her. My confidence in JJ Aldrich from the eye test, it's gone. It's gone. I don't like what I'm seeing. And I really like what I'm seeing from Veronica Hardy. So give me Hardy here at 8,200 to win a pretty decisive decision victory here.
And look, I think you've seen the influence of Dan and how he has implemented, his knowledge on the game. I mean, look, UFC doesn't care for Dan Hardy. PFL does, as he's basically a matchmaker for them now in terms of their European events there. But I do like Veronica Hardy, and I think I hate to say putting a 200 fighter as probably in my core. I think she's going to be in my core this week in terms of developing lineups.
Oh, baby. Me too. I like her a lot. So give me Veronica Hardy here at 8,200.
Sam, appreciate the super chat. Yeah, this is the bonus of the Jason fight and the Pete fights. Of course, if you're new to the show, it's everyone knows I really don't love making a big stand on the first fight of the night, and also of course for pizza with the 2,800. Sam saying, am I sensing a leverage play here?
What, you're gonna get to JJ Aldrich? You're gonna give you 36 points? I mean, sure.
It's. I kind of relate to my thoughts about Jose Aldo last week, where he went out there and he got 79 points, but I was like, man, like, I'm searching for 100 points, 90, 100 points, and I was like, if Aldo doesn't get knockdowns, I don't think he's going to get to 90, 100 points, and that's where I understand if you want to back JJ Aldrich, you think she can keep the fight on the feet, but like. What's the fantasy score? Like, I look at it from a situation of what's her upside. Like, best case scenario, do you think she can get 85 points?
36. I think Veronica Hardy's going to kick the hell out of her. I really do. I think that her kicking skills are so good. Like, it might look like Natalia Silva in there, and maybe like I am completely bullish on Veronica Hardy, but like I think her taekwondo is great. And her grappling sneaky good. You're telling me that Liang Na can just do whatever the hell she wants to JJ Aldrich, and then JJ finally, granted she did score 107 in that, but it's Liang Na, and it almost like is JJ ever going to get going? And she needed her opponent to completely collapse in that in order to do so. So I think Veronica is going to land so many damn kicks. We're due for a nice women's MMA knockout. I don't think she's going to do it, but imagine like a spinning hook kick, women's MMA knockout. That would be beautiful.
Yeah. Let's get right into our straight up fight picks before we get into some listener questions here. Main event. I would go Lewis. Give me Buckley.
Ruziboev.
Ulberg.
Rebecki.
Woodson. I really want to say Cortes-Acosta, but I'm going to go Despaigne.
Yeah, Despaigne.
At some point, I'm going to fade him. I'm just waiting for the right opponent. I
agree.
Give me underdog number 1, Chase Hooper.
I don't hate it at all. I'm still going to stick with the striker and Borshchev.
I can't say it. Give me Esteban. I can't say McKinney.
Okay, I'm going to go McKinney.
I would go Ricci.
Ricci.
Give me Waters.
Waters.
Hadley. Hadley, but man, I can see Johnson pulling it off though. I really can.
I don't blame you.
Gisette. And Veronica Hardy.
Veronica Hardy, baby.
Gets some questions in here. Sam's got his usual questions. Top core plays. He listed for cash and GPP. So I think in terms of core plays for me, just kind of going up to down. I would say Gisette, Hardy. They would be my top two. If I could fit Rebecki into a lineup with Gisette and Hardy, that would probably be a core three for me.
All right, so I'm going Hardy. I like her. I like Despaigne. And then I'm going to go Derrick Lewis.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not from a GPP aspect, I'm just not huge on the main event this week. My core would probably be the same for cash and GPP. I mean, if I'm like just hand building a lineup, I think it's going to start with either Gisette and Hardy or Rebecki and Hardy. I mean, that would be where I would start to kind of build some lineups there. Favorite inside the distance fighters. I think you got to start with Despaigne. I mean, I think that's the clear one to start off with. There's a lot of fights in this card that I think have got a high probability going the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would look at Rebecki getting a late stoppage against Diego.
Yep.
The main event I think it ends in a stoppage too.
I think the co-main event. I think that one way or another something happens.
Live dogs. I look right at the co-main event. That's the first one that sticks out to me. Other live dogs to me, Hooper at plus 120, McKinney plus 145. And I'm gonna say Charles Johnson plus 145 is another live dog.
All right, so I'll change the third one. I agree with you, Hooper and McKinney. I'm not on Charles Johnson. I'll go Billy Goff as a live dog.
Top punt dart plays, McKinney and Goff would be my top two.
Agreed.
Best parlay plays. I think it kind of goes to my core. But if I was trying to get some better odds, if I was like trying to do say a 3-fighter parlay, I would probably go Hardy, Gisette,
I got a hell of a
Ricci.
banger. I got Despaigne, Rebecki, Gisette, Lewis, Hardy, and Woodson. How about that? Put that thing together.
Have you put together to see what the odds are?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
All right, hold on. Let me pull it.
That's got to be a lot.
Right, hold on a second. So, who'd you say? You said Hardy. Who else?
Hardy, Despaigne, Rebecki,
Okay.
Gisette,
Okay.
Lewis, and Woodson. Probably nothing. It's probably like 400 plus 400. It's a lot of favorites.
Plus 952.
Hey, there we go. Put it in.
Wait a minute, it's a six. That's a 6-part fighter parlay.
That thing's all hit. Who's losing that? Despaigne? Maybe. Rebecki ain't losing. Gisette ain't losing. I don't think Derrick Lewis is losing.
Woodson and Lewis would be the only ones that would somewhat. I could see them not getting a victory.
Okay, I would take Lewis out then, just to be safe. And then I think Woodson is going to punch the shit out of Alex Caceres.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you take Derrick Lewis out, then now you're at plus 555.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad.
No, I mean, it's just. But for me personally, I try to limit my MMA parlays to 3 legs.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But if you want to get crazy, you want to throw $10 on a 13 leg parlay, go ahead and do it. That's a lottery ticket. That's a lottery ticket right there.
100%. That is a lottery ticket.
Let's see here. Fights with the best decision odds. I mean, there's a lot of things he going decision. Hadley Johnson would be one of them. Ricci Pennington has decision written all over it. I mean, we just know who Tecia Pennington is.
Maybe we're due for a women's armbar from guard. We haven't had that in a while.
You just put it out in the universe. You put it out in the universe. Now what?
Veronica Hardy, armbar from guard.
No.
Optimal.
Wait, you're talking. J.J. Aldridge is just going to magically pull off an armbar from guard.
Probably. Yeah. Leverage play. Sam says leverage play.
Road to the Manchester Series, 6.5. It's 30. Sam, here's the reason I would say over 6.5. It's in front of fans, and I think Fire's going to go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to say over. I say 7 finishes.
I want to get to a question I saw in Discord. I know what was top leverage plays. Leverage plays this week.
I got one. I want to hear yours.
Why is Billy Goff, Trey Waters one that sticks out to me?
Yep, I think it's Trey Waters. Yeah. I'm not going to back him because I don't necessarily think it's going to be great. I think Billy Goff's ownership is going to be crazy because people need an underdog. And when he wins with massive scores. But yeah, I think I think honestly maybe Trey Waters.
By the way, takedown upside. I've got a bunch of fighters I look at takedown upside. If I was going to rank, like, say, the top 3, I would say Jake Hadley 1.
Ooh.
Hardy 2. Gisette 3.
My man, sharp.
Ranking the 9K options. 1 Gisette, 2 Rebecki, 3 Despaigne, 4 Ulberg, 5 Woodson.
I got Despaigne 1, Rebecki 2, Gisette 3, Woodson 4, Ulberg 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the comments, J.J. Aldridge by effing judge's decision. Be very careful.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, my Lord. First time Pete and Jason picking a core play on both of your terms. Play.
Don't say that L word.
Look.
It's like in a football broadcast. When we do weather and field conditions, we don't mention the L word.
Yeah.
That's lightning. Because what's lightning bring? A 30-minute delay.
Every time I hear a broadcaster talk about this kicker hasn't missed a field goal, and bet the fact they're gonna, okay? Because they're gonna miss that next kick.
By the way, since I know you're a Chargers fan, I saw this hilarious video on TikTok today where one of the defensive guys comes over to the D line. He goes, "What's our kicker's name?"
Yep, a lot of change in the coaching in that team, but I'm excited for the next couple of years. I thought we drafted really well.
Yeah, man. I'm just look. I just want to put it in the universe. Hey, Paul George, you look really good in Orlando Magic uniform. Just saying. We got a ton of money to spend.
Yeah, you guys need something.
Did
you see Klay Thompson? Klay Thompson, they have a mutual interest. I don't know if you guys want to get in the Klay Thompson business. I don't know.
I think he would be a guy that I think he'll be. Someone's going to overpay Klay Thompson. I don't think he's back in Golden State. I really don't.
I don't
either. To me, he would make sense because the Magic are, I think, 2-ish starters away.
Yeah, he could be the new Gary Harris for you. You know what I mean?
I mean, watching the Cavs Magic series, Cavs on offense, it's 1-on-5. It's Donovan Mitchell against the other 5 defenders because no one else can do anything else. And for the Magic, it was literally it was 2-on-5. It was Franz and Paulo. I mean, Paulo's bro.
He's nasty.
If you've never, I remember seeing him live last year, and I go, "Oh my God, that's a goddamn linebacker." Dude,
he's a big guy.
Huge. Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you guys are a couple spots away. My Nets, who the hell knows what's going on with my Nets? We just suck.
Whew. Look, at least you're not the Phoenix Suns.
I don't think the Phoenix Suns. I think they're going to do it again next year and try to bring it back because once Minnesota wins
They
it
can,
all,
well,
they're
they
gonna be
can't.
like, oh,
They can't do anything though. There's literally nothing they can do that roster.
yeah. Well, they're going to say like, oh, we lost to the team that won it all. Timberwolves just swept the Nuggets.
They've only played 2 games here.
Huh?
There's still a lot of series left to be played.
I know, but they're hurt right now. They're not. I mean, they're just not playing with confidence and not full strength. There's a lot of basketball left. They could totally come back. They got Jokic, the biggest difference maker in all of NBA. But yeah, if you don't know, Jason and I love basketball.
Oh God, man, yeah, I could sit there and watch basketball all day long. Like I literally, if you told me like Saturday, if you told me there was a game at noon, 3, 6, 9, I'd probably watch every single one of them. I can, and of course I got the Hard Rock app up and going.
Of course.
Seeing where I can find those angles, and but look, if you got any questions about these fights on Saturday, you can leave a comment right here on YouTube or hop in our Discord channel. We're always in there. It is, if you can tag us, it definitely helps because sometimes kind of gets lost in the messages. So if you can tag us, be sure to do that. Of course, we got our DraftKings contest. It is live. Be sure to get into that. Let's not let Pete win 2 weeks in a row. I don't know. I
think you guys have messed up now. You woke up a sleeping giant, all right? And when your boy's in the green again this week, you just say, shoot, he did figure something out. So, but yeah, thank you guys for the endless support. Guys, thank you so much for the super chats. Truly appreciate that. If you can hit that like button, get us over 100 likes every time we do a show. It takes 2 seconds, and it really does help us out. Helps out the algorithm, helps spread the word about the show. And then leaving a comment on the video really does help the engagement and helps the channel. I mean, we've been floating about 950 subscribers for a while. We're so close. Can we get over 1,000, please? Can you help us out? But again, thank you guys from Discord to YouTube chat to everything. We really appreciate you.
By the way, I did not realize this. They are back in the Apex next week.
Yeah, see, bro, what the hell are you talking about?
Your co-main event. Chaos Williams versus Carlson Harris.
Come on. That's the co-main?
Yeah. Your main event, Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy.
Oh, my God, bro. Barboza Murphy is a main event?
Yes. Hey, we Apex fighting, baby.
What are we doing?
Bro, put on some fights.
Yeah, I mean, I love it from, there's money to be made. But, is it really that hard to put one really good fight on a card? Put, one really good one.
Look, all you have to do is look at a fight card the UFC puts on, and it's very clear whether it's in front of fans or not. To me, there's 3 levels.
There's still people at the Apex. I mean, now they're selling tickets at the Apex for stupid money.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, to me, there's 3 levels of UFC events. There's pay-per-view, the premier product. Then there's fight night cards in front of fans, and then the bottom of the level is fight night cards at the Apex, where they're in the content creation business.
I totally agree that they are, but there used to be a time when every main card was good fights, and the prelims sucked. From a on paper standpoint, and week to week, we'd be like, okay, these prelims, dude, you got the guy off the street versus the person in the crowd fighting each other, and now we got to break that down. But at least the main card, there's not volatility like that. Now it's literally 90% of the card, but it ain't gonna change. We're still subscribed to ESPN Plus. We're still betting.
Actually,
and we're still
I saw
playing DFS.
Subscriptions are actually down on ESPN Plus. They've lost 1 million subscribers. It's kind of interesting, especially as we're kind of as the UFC deal expires at the end of 2025, and they're about to start their negotiating process. So be interesting to see what happens, in terms of that. I would imagine ESPN is going to do what they can to keep them aboard. But there's some new players in the game, and, obviously Netflix is getting into the live sports event. We'll see what the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight does. I still can't believe that's actually a real thing.
Yeah.
Bro, I saw this video, Jake Paul saying how he still wants to fight. He wants to fight Canelo next. Bro, if you want to fight, if you want to truly be a legit boxer, you can't be taking on a 57-year-old Mike Tyson.
Sure he can, because it's resume building. People are just going to see the name. It's crazy. It shouldn't even be cleared via the commission.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's Texas. These things happen in Texas.
Yeah, they this is how like certain sports, they weasel their way into commissions and places where, hey, we'll allow it. And the next thing you know, then it starts to expand. And next thing you know, I'm stuck with bare knuckling in my hometown in a couple weeks. And God, I can't stand that shit. And I'm sorry if you guys like bare knuckle. Not my thing at all.
Well, I mean, I'll just say this about bare knuckle is they're paying fighters well. And that is why you are, I mean, look, Mike Perry has made a crap ton of money fighting bare knuckle, and he would not have made that money in MMA. And that's why I saw this Ariel pose a question. If you were going to invest in a promotion, who would you invest money in, PFL or BKFC? And I think BKFC is the one I would put investment in.
I'll tell you what, though. They don't pay well. They pay already established fighters well. Fighters on the come up that are, because like I don't view a bare knuckle fight the same I do as a mixed martial arts fight. You're getting cut up, you are creating scar tissue, and your face looks like, I just remember what's that guy's name? Jason Knight. When he had oh my God, he looked like he got stabbed 1,000 times in his face. But the problem is like, it is so damaging to the body from a laceration standpoint and a healing standpoint that anybody who's coming into the sport fresh, young, I think is stupid. I think it needs to be like a retirement job. You know what I mean? Like, you've already established yourself, take a couple, and now use this platform to make a shitload of money. Like Mike Perry was always going to be a step behind in mixed martial arts because there's other things besides throwing hands. But he's so good at throwing hands that he went down this avenue, and he's made more money doing this than he ever would have with MMA. And it's like, it's a really good crossover for established fighters, but not fighters on the come up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, when I went to a BKFC event, and this was, 2018, 2019, whatever it was, here in Tampa, one of my biggest takeaways was like, why do we have to start the fight where you're literally nose to nose with your, I mean, that to me was like my biggest takeaway of like, why can't you just have them in neutral corners and they come out like it's a boxing match, an MMA match? Like, why? That to me is the whole thing of that's the part I don't understand.
I just don't understand the hatred of gloves. I just don't understand. Like what the fuck? Now we got people doing bare knuckle MMA and like.
I'll tell you the promotion that I'm interested to see how it succeeds in the United States. Karate Combat.
You're looking at your boy.
I have taken in a couple of Karate Combat events. I think it's a very entertaining product.
I've had a lot of people
and it's different. And that to me is ultimately the key, is when we're talking about an industry that is so dominated by the UFC, that you have to do things different. You just can't be UFC light, essentially. You have to do something different. I think that if you look back in the day, Strikeforce, what made them different was women MMA. Did not have that in the UFC. Yeah. I think when you look at Bellator, in the first version of Bellator, where it was all about the tournaments, that's what made it different. Even though, like, man, I was on that traveling circus. There were fighters that I think it probably took years off their career because they were having to you were literally making weight 3 times in 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what the PFL's doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, oh man, it was a Jersey fighter. Oh man, I can't think. I can see his face.
What weight class?
He was a welterweight, and it just he killed his body. I want to say he's like a politician now. But it just got to the point.
Bro, I know who you're talking about.
I can see his face.
He's out of Tiger Schulman's, isn't he? I
want to say so. But you would see it. I mean, like, bro, like those fighters that were going through weight cuts, man, it was, I think people don't realize how tough that is. That's why, like, I look at someone like a Ruziboev trying to make 170, and this fight came together, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It's gonna be
What
interesting.
the hell is that guy's name? He's from Tiger Showman's. I know who it is, and he was supposed to be the big thing, next big thing, and then he came in. The second you say it too, I know he's from Tiger Showman's.
Why do I want to say Sam Oropeza?
All right, definitely not who I was talking about.
Yeah, he was a massive ticket seller, and but he was just so big for 170.
Yeah,
he hasn't fought since 2015. Was his last time he fought.
Yeah, I tell you,
it got to a point like Bellator was like, we can't put this guy in a tournament because we can't. He can't make weight. Yeah, he's a politician now.
I have no idea who the hell that is, but
I'm not sure who you're. Are you thinking of Lyman Good?
Yes, dude, that's who I'm talking about. Lyman Good. Thank you. I'm thinking of Lyman Good, that guy who actually made waves.
Yeah,
you're talking about freaking whoever the hell he is. I don't even know who that guy is.
Bellator was high on him. But they were like, this guy can't make weight 3 times in 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, so the dynamic's different, right? And like karate combat kind of has a similar idea like the WCL had, World Combat League, which was Chuck Norris's kickboxing league, where they kind of had that platform that they fought on, where Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Raymond Daniels, the likes of a lot of karate practitioners competed in that. And I was trying to get in on that. I was so close. But that was with kickboxing gloves. And the idea of that's cool. But like for me and what we train a lot is like the Sanda Sanshao, where it's like kickboxing. If you get close, you land a takedown and you follow with some ground and pound, which is kind of like the old school karate. And that's just like karate combat now. And now they're kind of talking about where they had one event where they had some Thai fighters cross over and they allowed leg kicks to the thigh. So now they actually might just make leg kicks in general legal, which I think they should be, dude, from the thigh to the calf. Just make it all legal. But I like karate combat a lot. That's way more my style. I don't understand the whole hatred of it's just like have no fists, have no gloves on, and the bums fighting in those. Like, I don't know. That's like barroom type of shit. I'm not a fighter. I'm a martial artist. And that sounds really lame, but I'm a martial artist, and that's my perspective on this whole game. And you got people that are just fighters, and they will completely disagree with me, and it's fine. But like I also teach classes to kids and women and everybody. Like I live the whole martial arts lifestyle. I'm not just like the barroom ego-driven type of person.
I will say that. So the last Power Slap event. So this was, I don't know what, a couple weeks ago. I was out with a buddy, and so for those who don't know, basically Power Slap is being delivered to restaurants and bars at no cost. It's a part of your DirecTV, and so you get it for free. And so the place I was at, which was basically a franchise sports bar, they had it on, and the thing that really stuck out to me was how intrigued people were with Power Slap. I would have never thought it. I just thought, hey, niche, and then it was kind of a wake-up call of like, well, at the end of the day, people just like watching people get knocked out.
Yeah. My dad and I were at the fights the other night, and he's like, it's crazy, because like we're sitting there, and you look at me, I don't look like a fighter. You look at my dad, you don't think like one of the best kickboxers in North America. And we're just sitting there, and I'm hearing these guys just say whatever. And I'm not really in the crowd all that much.
About this, yeah.
Oh my God. I'm really not in the crowd that much. If I go to fights, I'm usually ringside. I was actually in the crowd this time. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I'm hearing these guys, they're striking. And they're like, come on, do something. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, my guy, like, what do you want them to do? And they're like, it's this pitter patter shit. And I'm like, that's why people like bare knuckle, for the idiots behind me that like their brain cells are just like, they don't understand the concept of anything besides just pure violence. And like, I don't know, man. It's just,
there's nothing like going regional MMA. I'm telling you, the part I love about going to regional MMA is just sitting there and just listening to what people say.
Dude, this guy in front of me said it one time, and he got like people around him to giggle. He's like, put your thumb in his ear or something. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Put your thumb in his ear. And then he thought he was the funniest guy there. So every fight he proceeded to do it. And then it turned out he was just laughing by himself, hysterically drunk, out of his mind. But like, I don't know. Everybody just does shit for attention. And a lot of people are just, casuals. And that's not bad at all. And I put a tweet out there. I was just like, what I'm hearing from just like an understanding standpoint, I want to educate the normal people and just the population in general. But I feel like there's always going to be a gap. You know what I mean? There's always going to be, unless like we really integrate martial arts into school systems, I think there's going to be a gap in understanding it.
I was literally having a conversation with somebody the other day because I'm working on doing a play-by-play broadcast for an MMA promotion here in Florida.
Nice.
And the thing I came is I said, my style is I want to educate that person that's tuning in.
Yeah.
Because, and I go, that's why, like, you just put me next to a fighter, I can throw softball questions up there during a fight and just say, hit it out of the park.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're experienced and you're the man. And that's why Joe Rogan, like, he kind of blew up and Dana White loved him because he knew what he was looking at. And he would really educate the audience from a jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking standpoint. Like, the guy knew it all. And he'd walk people through it. And you're like, oh, I'm hanging on to every word because I'm learning something right now. And I'm trying to understand. And he's a big reason why MMA kind of took off. And Dana White knows that. And that's why they have like a really good relationship.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's certain color analysts I really like to listen to just because I feel like I learned something new about the fight game in one way or another. I think Dominic Cruz does a good job. I will say this. I don't like the Cormier Rogan pairing. I just think it doesn't. I'm personally not a big fan of it. I think DC does a good job. I think when he gets with the Rogan, I think he tries to be a comedian, and I'm just not huge on it. But
Dominic Cruz with DC, that's kind of like a vibe I don't like because Dominic Cruz is a pain in the ass.
Oh no! Give me Cruz and Bisping because I think it's just goddamn entertaining.
I think I really like Bisping. I really like Bisping, and I really like Felder, and always have liked Felder. I think Felder did a great job, always does. And Lorisenko too. I think people hate on Lorisenko, and Lorisenko, she knows more than a lot of people. She knows more than 90% of the people watching. So,
90.
You know what I mean? 99%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. She just, I mean, it's just, I think that the problem is if you didn't fight under the UFC banner, that, and I think Jimmy Smith kind of ran that problem too, where, even though Jimmy Smith is a amazing broadcaster, because he didn't have that former UFC fighter, I just think it hurt him a little bit. And, but if you have a SiriusXM subscription, his show on SiriusXM is really good. I highly recommend it. But of course, as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ Podcast. Anything you want to leave the listeners with, Pete?
No, just want to say thanks, guys. And let's win some money. And don't cry when I win the Fight HQ contest again.
That is going to do it for this episode. We'll talk to you here next week right here on the Fight HQ Podcast.